How do we optimize human potential? We see that the development of science and technology has aided civilization in discovering and understanding the nature of life.
My name is Dr. Alaric Arnender, and through all these decades of brain research, I've enjoyed doing research myself and reading the research literature, especially in the areas of brain, consciousness, and the application of meditation. And I have to tell you that in all these years, it's becoming clearer and clearer. It was actually quite clear about 40 years ago, but every year it gets clearer and clearer from the research published and people's experience around the world, that the human potential can actually be easily tapped into. The human brain, in its immense complexity, is actually available through very simple and effortless techniques that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, his Vedic science, have offered to everybody in the world. These research-based techniques, ancient techniques, allow any individual to access, develop, and utilize the full potential of their birthright, which is this brain of incredible complexity and cosmic proportions. So, from a neuroscience perspective, there are many techniques, there are many ways to train the brain to do different things. And as you've seen over the centuries, we've made little progress. But now in the last 50 years, with the availability of TM around the world, it's very clear that TM is by far the most effective, the simplest, and the most enjoyable form of meditation to develop the full potential in every individual to gain a state of enlightenment.
We are going to now look into brain activity and conscious experience. In the late 1700s, electrical currents in the brain were discovered. This discovery laid the foundation of modern neurophysiology. Let's hear from Dr. Arnender, and then we will be visualizing these electrical currents with the use of EEG, which records the electrical activity produced by the billions of cells in the brain.
In neuroscience, there's always the desire to fathom the mechanics of brain functioning. It is so vastly complex with 100 billion neurons. In one little grain, there are a billion contacts. There are 2 miles of fibers and 100,000 neurons. It's just a little tiny grain. And then we have this vast potential of a human brain. And in neuroscience, how do we begin to fathom that? And what technologies can we use to elicit the best output, the best expression of this potential? And we know now, after many, many decades, that the prefrontal cortex, this area right behind the forehead, right in here, that the prefrontal cortex seems to be the core, the key locus by which we organize our life, organize our thinking, behavior, and our consciousness. It is the center part of what it means to be a human being and to develop into an enlightened individual. And so we need technologies and we need research that demonstrate that we can affect this prefrontal cortex, develop its full potential so that the individual can thrive and develop its full potential and be part of an enlightened society. This is a recording of live brainwave activity of a practitioner of Maharishi's Transcendental Meditation technique. There are a number of screens you're viewing right now as the EEG is being analyzed by the computer. I'm going to stop it for a second. And you notice that there are 4 main screens: the top screens, the 2 middle screens, and then the lower screen. The top screen is made up of 2 screens, the left front and the right front. These are the power spectrum from very slow frequencies to middle frequencies to very high frequencies in both cases. Low frequencies, middle frequencies, and high frequencies on both the left front and the right front. In the middle are 2 of the EEG tracings themselves from the left front and from the right front. and they go across in time. The entire screen is about 1 minute, and so we've seen about 10-20 seconds already of EEG, and you can see they're a certain size and a certain pattern. And below that, in the last screen, the bottom screen, is what is called coherence. Coherence is a measure of the phase, stability, or correlation between two individual EEG signatures. For example, from the left side and the right side of the front of the brain. So the coherence, this chart at the bottom, the graph at the bottom, is the most important chart here because it's going to illustrate how the computer calculates the degree of coherence between different parts of the brain and therefore a measure of global EEG or brainwave coherence. And as you can see, before the person meditates, the coherence oscillates between the minimum of 0 and maximum of 100%. 0 and 100%. And this is seen as a normal oscillation or rhythm of having more and a little bit less and a little bit more as an individual processes information. In the middle of the screen, we're going to see at the beginning of the practice of Maharshi's Transcendental Meditation technique, a profound change. So let me continue then the recording of this live EEG. Now we have a continuation of the recording. And notice your attention on the size of these waves and the nature of the coherence. So the person has begun the TM technique. Notice the changes right away. Within about less than 1 second, the individual has been able to shift their entire brainwave activity from a very diversified, outward-oriented mode of functioning, I'm going to stop it, to a very unified and powerful, inward-oriented form of awareness or consciousness. And you can see that the beginning of TM was right here, and you can see that what is on the left side of the screen is profoundly different from what's on the right side of the screen. Notice, for example, that the EEG in both the left side and the right side and the front of the individual became quite large. Notice the size of the amplitude, and this is an indication of rapidly increased integration of cellular activity from a more diversified to a more unified, powerful structure of brain coherence. And that you can see on both the left and the right-hand side after the beginning of TM where the marker is. You also see that at the same time point, right here, that at the same time point, the EEG coherence in the front of the brain, between the left and the right-hand side, the coherence also shifts dramatically from before to during the TM technique. And you can see that during the TM technique, the coherence now rises to a very high, a remarkably high level of global coherence, oscillating at around 90%, 95%, where before it was oscillating in a diversified mode across the entire range. This shows you how simple and easy, in this effortless, natural way, an individual can sit and close their eyes, and within less than a second or so, the brain shifts or switches from an outward-oriented to a very deeply rested, inner-oriented form of awareness, the simplest form of human awareness. A direct experience of one's own self. And in doing so, that deeply pleasurable and relaxing experience and level of the mind correlates with a very profound and remarkable change on the level of brainwave dynamics. And we can see it shifts from a diversified to a very unified local coherence and global coherence. Local and global coherence, which lie at the basis of all the many, many decades of research that's been published around the world, showing that individuals who practice this very simple form of meditation, transcendental meditation, experience within a very short period of time, and with increasing amounts over time, remarkable changes in every aspect of mind, body, health, feeling, and behavior.
To allow for a comparison, we will now be visualizing the average EEG of a non-practitioner of transcendental meditation.
Here is
brain waves of an individual who's not meditating. On the top is the EEG trace of a single lead on the brain, and the bottom is the brainwave coherence between the left and right side of the human cortex. And you can see that it goes up and down. This is a natural accretion of the coherence increasing and decreasing, in this case between about 20 and 60%. This is what a world's population of non-meditators, they have a certain amount of coherence. And this certain amount of coherence reflects a certain level of brain potential and quality of thinking and behavior. So this is what we see with the non-meditator. Now what if we look after 2 months of meditation of this individual? What would that brain look like during transcendental meditation? You can see on the left, that individual was bouncing up and down, and then they start meditation and see immediately the change here. The change indicates, while they're continuing the meditation, that there's very high and sustained levels of EEG brainwave coherence. And we know that these levels of training the brain to order bring about great benefits to the individual in all aspects of their thinking, feeling, and physiology. So here is a simple example of what happens as you shift from before meditation to begin meditation. Again, this is the averaged level of coherence in an individual, which gives rise to an quote-unquote average life of happiness and success. We'd like to improve the latent potential, and we'd like to see that the left side of the front and the right side of the front are more coherent, that your executive control centers, in particular the prefrontal cortex in the front of the human brain, can be improved in its orderliness. And we can see why we're thinking about the prefrontal cortex, because the responsibilities of this frontal area are very fundamental. They're responsible for your sense of self, awareness and attention, values and your beliefs, your goals. The president is responsible for your creativity, decision-making, self-control, and habits. Here is a new screen, and this one is a little bit more complicated because it shows now 4 pairs of electrodes. We're going to look at the front, left and right. We're going to look at the sides on the left side and the right side, how the front of the brain communicates with the back of the brain. And the 4th one, we're going to look at the back parietal areas where we create our world. So in this graph then, we have the coherence of the front of the brain, the back of the brain, the left side of the brain, and the right side, all 4, front, back, left, and right. And when they begin meditation, you can see on the left before meditation, and then everything goes up to very high sustained levels of coherence across the entire brain. This is what we refer to as total brain potential. And here's a continuing picture of meditation, and you can see that this is very different from before meditation, and it is also very, very different from the average coherence of the individual on this planet. So total brain functioning is what we want to accomplish, and the technology is available for everybody to increase the order of their brain and therefore automatically and effortlessly increase their brain potential. This effortless technology and simple technology allows the brain to realize its full creative potential.
Hoje, para nós, é dia muito especial. Hoje nós estamos tendo o privilégio de ter uma palestra não nacional, como a gente tem tido ao longo dos últimos anos, mas uma conferência internacional. Primeiro, eu gostaria de dizer que continuava com o nível de estresse. E na vida da gente, a gente precisa ter. Tem picos de estresse, porque todos nós vamos ter problema na vida, mas você tem que baixar novamente para que você espere outra situação que aconteça. Are we okay?
Yes.
Okay. So please.
So we just wanted to have you hear Rivka's experience with transcendental meditation, and then we'll start the live demonstration.
Bom dia. Eu comecei a meditar por uma indicação do meu dentista. Eu fui procurá-lo porque eu estava com um problema na articulação, procurei um especialista, um problema de mandíbula, acordava tensa e fui procurar esse dentista.
100%, então seria de mais ou menos 30 segundos. Então nós temos esse tempo aqui e a ordenação de máximo e mínimo. Então você pode ver que essas ondas cerebrais vão de cima para baixo. Isso é normal, nós temos uma percepção da sociedade. Então você gostaria de começar? O que ela está fazendo? Ela está com os olhos fechados, é uma técnica bem importante. Ela está ouvindo, ela está me ouvindo. Eu não sei o que ela vai de volta para a sua meditação. Então é bem mais ordenado. Então dentro dessa ciência da meditação transcendental,
कॉन्टेक्स्ट इसी के माध्यम से होता है। अभी जो ध्यान में जो रेखाएं आप देख रहे हैं वो एक मस्तिष्क में जो संतुलन जो होता है, जो एक संबद्धता होता है, उसका वो प्रमाणित करता है। ये ध्यान के पहले किस प्रकार अपना मस्तिष्क का कार्य होता है और ध्यान के समय किस तरह के उसमें परिवर्तन। अभी वो ध्यान करना शुरू किया, अभी ध्यान कर रही है, तो इसमें आप वो अंतर देख लीजिए। ध्यान के पहले आप देखा था ये जो रेखाएं है ना, इसमें एक ऐसे खाली जगह था, एक संबद्धता नहीं था। तो जैसे वो ध्यान शुरू किया, वो देखिए उसका जो एम्पलीट्यूड है।
So having seen the immediate impact of this simple mental technique of transcendental meditation on brain orderliness, we're going to see how it's applied to the lives of many individuals throughout the world, normal individuals as well as individuals with problems of mental and physical health, people with depression or ADHD or PTSD. We're going to find it's this infusion of orderliness into the prefrontal cortex and hence into the whole brain that brings about automatically and in a simple way more orderliness in feeling, thinking, and behavior of any individual.
I used to say, I'm going to get my grades up, I'm going to do better. But yeah, it was just what I said. It never happened until I started meditating.
I think every barrio, ghetto school in America has to have the fundamental right of having an opportunity to do this type of thing.
The kids in the West Bank love it. The kids in Brazil love it. I think this is what people need. They don't need high-minded talk so much as results.
Speaking as a scientist, the amazing thing about transcendental meditation is the very well-established research showing that the technique impacts things that we didn't think were changeable.
Since I started TM, my sugar's been where it should be. So I'm sold on TM.
The initial research on the effects of transcendental meditation in treating PTSD offers so much hope, better than many things being tried at far less a cost.
Transcendental meditation saved my life. Today, I can say I am a meditator.
If you take out time and just meditate and just let everything go, free your mind, everything will come together.
Just this last month, I felt so much energy. It's been amazing. All that feeling of heaviness, I could feel it melt away. It was absolutely transformational.
I've found that there is an ever-present sanctuary within me.
People tell me, you look very calm, you look very relaxed. And there's not a whole lot of craziness. I'm just sitting there calm, and it's surprising even to me.
I have a lot of problems in my life. And Tim came into my life and gave me this open door to something that I never knew it would be.
Those days I used to cry too much, but now even the tears are holding. I'm great.
It comes back to the core of who you are as a person and what you're made of, and you have to give yourself a chance.
We're very pleased to have some brain-based peace technologies to generate harmony in the social order. These technologies over the last 30 years have been documented by modern scientific research across many institutions and many countries to bring about, through small groups of practitioners of Maharishi's programs, a wide range and a wave of increased positive growth and harmony in society. This is very great.
All around the world, groups of peace-creating experts are coming together to practice transcendental meditation and Maharishi's advanced programs. They are collectively generating a superwave of brain coherence. The brain-based approach to peace utilizes the human brain and all its possibilities to allow every nation to generate peace and harmony. In the vicinity of order and coherence, no negative tendencies arise. The brain-based approach to peace brings fulfillment to the age-old quest for world peace, and at the same time, it unlocks latent brain potential of the individual, which is the greatest resource of every nation.
In conclusion, we have seen that the human brain, in all its beautiful complexities, has these values of coherence and intelligence. We are in a position now, through transcendental meditation and all Maharishi's technologies of consciousness, to unlock the huge reservoirs of latent potential within each one of us, and make use of our cosmic supercomputer to bring our own individual life to enlightenment, invincibility to our nation, and peace to our dear world.